Hello again, welcome back to Talking Smack, talking superheroes, movies, animation, and comics. Except this week, we're not really talking about any of that. We're talking the weekend box office smash hit Ferdinand. No, we're talking Star Wars, of course. And I am your host, Josh Scar. With me this week, we have multiple people. We have Alex Lasden. Alex, welcome again.
Hello, hello.
And Derek, welcome again.
Hello.
Derek Z, I should say. I gave Alex a last name, so you should have a last name as well.
I suppose.
And before we get into anything, I did want to make a quick retraction from the episode last week. I said that Kelly Marie Tran's name was Rosemary Tran. I got her Star Wars character, Rose Tico, mixed with her name. But that's largely because Rose is such a weird and not very Star Wars name.
Not really.
Not all that much.
For a galaxy far, far away, Rose is a very boring name.
Now, I do want to say I respect you for offering a retraction here on the show when you could have just gone back, edited the show, pretend nothing happened, and moved on with our
I
lives.
was super tempted to do that, but I'm also super lazy, and I did not want to do that much editing.
So honesty keeps, laziness keeps you honest. That's a good policy for life.
So Star Wars The Last Jedi, we're diving right into this, and full spoilers in advance.
Yes.
If you haven't seen this movie, do not listen to this podcast yet. Come back after you've seen the movie.
For the love of the Force, please don't.
So we're going to get into some numbers really quick. The Last Jedi opened at $45 million on Thursday viewings, which lumped into their Friday viewings, which totaled at $104 million. You could round that up to 105. It was like 104.787 million. And the estimated weekend total is $220 million, which makes it the second highest opening weekend, right behind The Force Awakens, which opened at about $248 million. It's actually a little less, but it's like 247.9, so I'm rounding up. And I just wasted 10 seconds of your life with that. So, The Last Jedi, I keep wanting to say The Force Awakens. The Last Jedi, I was actually really impressed with the opening crawl, because that filled in a couple of gaps. Yep. One, it filled in the fact that apparently the rebellion is on its knees. Like, it is like almost on its deathbed at this point, because there's only a few, maybe 100, maybe a few thousand that are left. And the opening crawl fills a lot of that in. So we get some backstory that we didn't necessarily get with The Force Awakens right away, because The Force Awakens just opens with Luke Skywalker's missing. Mm-hmm. Okay, but what happened in the other 30 years? So I, even though this is only a matter of hours, maybe a matter of days, as far as the difference, I did appreciate that opening crawl, which, because we all assumed that the first thing we were going to see is Rey walking up to Luke, because they said it's going to pick up immediately where The Force Awakens left off. So everyone was just wondering, what's the crawl going to say?
Right.
And again, it actually filled in some gaps, and it set up the movie nicely. The main story of this movie is failure. That's the main theme that you can take out of this, is the Resistance is in shambles. The First Order is hunting them down to finally just put out the rebellion and the Republic once and for all. And that's where the movie picks up, is we open on Poe giving a crank call to, was it Grand Admiral Hux, or is it just Admiral Hux?
I thought it was General Hux.
General Hux. It's General Hux.
Yeah.
Yep. Armitage Hux.
That's actually his name?
Yep.
Armitage, yes.
Derek brought a reference guide in the Art of Star Wars book.
Okay.
He's still a jerk.
Quick question about him. At one point he says, "My army." Are they renting the army from him? Because when he's like, "What are you going to do with my army?" I'm like, are they... Is he a freelancer?
Well, no, he wants to be like the head honcho of the First Order.
Okay.
That's what he wants. So he already sees everything in the First Order as his.
Oh, okay.
And Kylo Ren is he's not affiliated with the military. He is freelance. He does not have any say or power over the stormtroopers or anything. So General Hux is the highest point of the First Order's
they
army.
really only listen to him because they know that he could just kill them all if he wanted to, pretty much.
And because Snoke has said, this is my right-hand man.
Yep.
Hux is the general of the military, but Kylo Ren is my guy.
Right.
So because you have the supreme leader of the First Order kind of singling out Kylo Ren, you assume so much, but at the same time,
So it's a Vader
the actual
situation.
the actual hierarchy would say that Hux is the next guy. So Poe's given this prank call, which I thought it was very funny. It kind of felt out of place to begin with, because again, we've never known that Star Wars has hold lines. I'll hold. Is kind of weird, but it was a really fun moment, and it kind of set up a lot of the humor that came on throughout the movie. I like that Hux is. I think he was calling him Hugs.
He was calling him Hugs.
Yep.
Yeah,
And then he kept pronouncing Hux, and he's like, "Yes, I'm waiting for Hugs."
And I wasn't sure if that was just Poe's way of mispronouncing his name intentionally, or if that's the way he just pronounced his name.
I've also heard it pronounced almost like Hooks, hooks.
I think that depends on accents, because Star Wars is known for accents.
Don't forget, there's that supercut of how do you pronounce Han Solo with Han, which I think was fantastic. I love that.
Well, you also have the same thing with the Millennium Falcon. I mean, Harrison Ford himself changes it from Falcon to Falcon every now and then.
Yeah. True. Or, and then the Emperor calls it the Aluminum Falcon.
What the hell's an aluminum falcon?
Bunch of teenagers destroy the Death Star. Build another one. He's going to give me a load.
Get your 10-ton asthmatic ass back here.
Oh, God, I love those Robot Chicken specials. So the way we're breaking this movie down is we can't really go chronologically. This movie bounces back and forth almost.
It does.
Every 5 minutes.
There's a lot that is like happening at the same time.
Yeah, this movie pretty much happens all within the span of a day or two. I think they say at one point that there's about 19 hours of fuel reserve.
18.
So everything happens within that 19 or 18 hours, which leads to some plot holes, but you can also justify that with science and say that like Octo has different day spans.
Well, actually, like in my opinion, I feel like a lot of what occurred on Octo, happened like right when or before we even got to the point where the Resistance fleet was stranded.
Okay, interesting.
What's Octo? No, seriously.
Octo is the planet that Luke is on.
Okay,
yes.
I just call it Porg Island. Okay, no, seriously, because there's Las Vegas. There's
which is Canto Bight.
Yeah,
Canto Bight.
Canto Bight is on the planet called Cantonica.
Okay, so
I thought Canto Bight was the actual planet.
No, Canto Bight
is
is a city that was basically like built on a desert world of Cantonica.
Okay, well, we're getting off topic here. So the way we're doing this...
Is it Canto Bight or Cenobite? Because those are very different things.
Canto Bight is the city. Or the casino, whatever. So the way we're doing this is we're going to take like the main characters and we're going to just break down their stories, how we felt about them, what happened within their stories. We're going to do that sort of thing. So we're going to start with Pose because I feel like Pose is short enough but impactful enough that it warrants getting the first thing to talk about.
Yes.
So we have Poe after he's done prank calling Hux, and he goes and he takes out like the entire armaments of the dreadnought. Is that the big one?
It's the dreadnought, and he's basically taking out like the anti-aircraft guns.
Yeah, he's taking out the
essentially
topside gun so that they can do a bombing run to take it out,
right?
Permanently, not just run away, but to permanently. But they've also they haven't discovered this yet. We'll get into that later. So Poe decides that after he takes out almost all of them, Leia tells him to pull back, and he just says, "We have a chance to take out the dreadnought. We're going to do it." And he takes out the top gunner, and then they end up losing like half of their bombing fleet.
All but one. No, wait, all of them.
They lose all of them, but one
them,
succeeds in taking out the dreadnought. And the one that succeeds also has Rose's sister on it, which again we'll get into when we talk about Finn and Rose next. But Poe's story is essentially that of Leia kind of mentoring him through the School of Hard Knocks to become the next Leia, essentially, from what I was gathering.
Well, one of her main goals was to prepare like this next generation because she knows that she's not going to be around forever, that they need to be prepared to continue on.
Yeah, and this ties into something I do want to talk about a little bit later with Laura Dern's character, Vice Admiral Holdo, which her name, I don't know if either of you are really familiar with Homestar Runner, but there's a game called Peasant's Quest where you have to meet up with a couple of brothers who say hello by saying "Heldo," and I couldn't stop thinking about that. So anyone out there who likes Homestar Runner, at me with that. So Vice Admiral Holdo, played by Laura Dern, has this evacuation plan where Poe has this escape plan, which are very different. they're subtle but different. And Poe wants to take out a beacon that the First Order has developed, where they can track ships through light speed.
Yep.
And
hyperspace.
Hyperspace.
Yes.
And
same difference. It is.
And so Poe sends out Finn and Rose to go on a mission to try and take out this tracker before the First Order can realize that it's gone, and because apparently it can be transferred from ship to ship or activated from ship to ship. So Poe has to basically create a mutiny to try and give Rose and Finn time, and it doesn't necessarily work out the way you would think in a Star Wars movie, because again, the whole theme of this movie is failure and learning from those failures to grow. And when he gets back on the bridge, Leia demotes him, and there's oh my god, you guys aren't even helping me with this. I'm trying to remember all this stuff from one viewing from 3 days ago.
Well, I mean, I would say it's important to note that, like at this point in time, after Poe has failed, after he's been demoted by Leia.
So the quick point of reference: the demotion happened because he ignored her order to pull back and got all the bombers destroyed.
Yes,
right. Which
even
all
though
of this was happening,
even though they eventually succeeded in the mission of destroying the Dreadnought, but the question becomes at what cost?
This was all while they were trying to evacuate their base on Dakar, which is like just a matter of probably hours, if not days, of destroying Starkiller base.
Right.
And then the Dreadnought, before they're able to destroy it, destroys their base, and then that's what causes them to flee with the whole First Order fleet basically in pursuit of them.
Because these are the last remnants of the Resistance.
Because there's dozens of First Order Star Destroyers after them right now. Mm-hmm. And they drop out of hyperspace just because they are running out of fuel, and they were going to make one last jump when they realize that they're being tracked. Yep, and that's when we see all of the Star Destroyers drop out. And then this escape plan by Poe is devised, as well as we learn about Admiral Holdo's plan as well, at least bits and pieces of it.
Which her plan is to get as close to the planet Crate as possible and jettison all of the escape pods with the remnants of the Resistance in it, so that they can send a distress call out, and hopefully the First Order won't focus on that because they've got a good bit of distance, which I thought that was actually kind of cool, was that they showed that the cannons and the shields can actually hold up for an indefinite amount of time because of a distance and a range.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I thought that was kind of cool. And we also saw for the first time like the actual shields of a Star Wars like frigate. You know, we actually saw the shields kind
their
of
capital ship, the Radis.
Yeah.
And it, like, if you read the visual dictionary, it does tell you that it does have reinforced shielding, especially on the aft, I believe it would be called.
The rear end of the ship.
Yep. And that's what helps them is between the distance, because they know that the cannons, like the laser fire, whatever, it can't penetrate the shields at that distance. So they're trying to keep that going
distance
as long as they can.
But yeah, that's a very cool storyline, and again the theme of it all kind of blends together, because again they fail to make it to a certain point, and they have to kind of, well, we'll get into it later. I'm jumping ahead. So Poe, what did we think of Poe's story within this movie? We'll let you guys go first.
I think it gives it a little bit more character development, because I feel like in The Force Awakens, all we really got to see is like, oh, it's Poe. Hey, he's good looking. Hey, he's an awesome pilot, and that's all we. And then he disappears for about half the movie. No, yeah, yep. So I think it's kind of nice to get to know a little bit more about him, because I just feel like he definitely needed that character development.
Well, originally his character was planned to just die in the TIE fighter crash, but Oscar Isaac, the actor that plays Poe, he just kind of said, would it be cool if I didn't die? And they're like, sure. So they needed a new Han Solo, so they decided, let's use Oscar Isaac, and it's working out okay. Alex, what did you think of Poe's story?
I absolutely hated every part of it. Mostly because every single death is his fault. The entire bombing run, betraying Leia's orders, Every bomber that died was his direct fault. They destroyed a dreadnought that turned out to be useless because they're being tracked through hyperspace. And because of that bombing run and Leia waiting for them to get back from the bombing run, a bunch of the ships were destroyed. And then he comes up with this plan because he doesn't like Ellie Sattler's plan, Laura Dern's. Holdo, thank you. In the Holdo's plan, he doesn't like it, so he betrays her while Leia's incapacitated. He decides to betray her, send these people off. They ultimately fail. And because they fail, the person who ends up betraying them to make them fail overhears the actual plan, and then what became like 500 people is now like 15 people, and it's literally all tied to Poe's plans. Poe's inability to take any direction or be listened to anybody or do anything that he's being told. And he escapes this with no consequences at all.
Well,
but yes, Leia demoted him.
But that was before any of that.
Well, after the bombing run.
I'm saying it was before any more deaths happened.
Leia demoted him, and then he still kept calling himself commander, and she's like, aren't you captain? Didn't Leia demote you? And he's like, yeah, whatever. Then he betrays her, literally leads a mutiny, ends up having everybody killed but these like 15 people on this base. And the end of the movie, he's hugging everybody, high-fiving, hey, we're escaping, there's 15 of us left. I'm like, there's no consequences to your character at all. You literally got tens of dozens of ships dead and thousands of people dead. And it's all like, hey, he and Rey are making fuck-me eyes with each other. Nice meeting you. Yeah. It's okay that everybody's dead because of me, but don't worry.
To be fair, not that Holdo needed to tell him, but to be fair, if Holdo had just made her plans known that they were trying to just get as close to Crate as possible, Poe wouldn't have done any of that because he would have been like, oh, I see what you're trying to do. But because she didn't make those plans known, he just assumes that she's just trying to basically hold out as long as possible and hope for a miracle.
That, and he asked her.
But here's the thing: the commander of the army doesn't always tell some random captain everything that they're doing. He's literally a nobody on there because he's been demoted to a captain.
And that's what I'm saying. It's not necessarily her fault. But again, she sees this guy who is very gung-ho and wants to just save everybody. She should be like, hey, I have a plan.
Right.
Although not dramatically as satisfying as what they had in the movie, it would make sense. You just be like, hey, dude, knock it off. I am your commanding officer. I have a plan.
Right, but at the exact same time, he already had judged her and was going to ignore her anyway. That whole like, oh, that's General Holdo, doesn't look anything like I expected him to, or something like that. And it's like, he already doesn't respect what she's going to do, so he already is second-guessing her before he even hears that she does not going to tell him what's going on. So I really would like to see the next movie actually have consequences, because I was sitting around thinking about it yesterday, and I'm like, what was Poe's story? And I'm like, what the hell? Literally every step of the line is he causes death, he causes death, he causes death. And then
he saves everyone when they do the run on Crate, because he tells them to pull back because he realizes it's a useless gesture. He's learning from his failures, which again is the theme of this movie. Granted, he saves 12 people compared to, well, no, I guess like 3 or 4 of them got blown up by the new AT-ATs. But I mean, he saves like 9 people because of this, although Finn tried to not let him save him.
Yeah.
But I like Poe's story, and I don't think there can be any consequences just because of how desperate they're going to be for leadership at this point.
Yeah,
I think Leia's going to give him a good smack.
There's not very many people left.
Yeah, Leia's going to give him a good like flogging or something.
Leia is almost essentially like one of the only actual commanders and generals left in the whole resistance.
Yeah.
So I don't think they can afford that. I think maybe he has a tighter leash with Leia for a while, but among other things, which we'll get into at the end, we don't know what kind of time jump is going to happen. We obviously won't know what kind of follow-up they're going to have with Poe, although the movie did kind of present the idea that he won't have any consequences because happy ending.
Yeah.
And I mean, honestly, just because of how, like they even said too that they have the resistance on a string, the First Order does.
Yeah.
So I mean, chances are, like regardless of what decisions were made between Holdo and Poe, a lot of these people were probably going to die in some way anyways, just because the resistance had them right where they wanted them to be. I mean, they could prolong that death as long as they wanted to, but I mean, it was they were just delaying the inevitable.
Yeah, but I would rather them delay the inevitable than literally one person getting away scot-free with murdering a bunch of people. He
didn't murder them. He just led them to their deaths.
I believe that the Warsaw Papers said that doesn't count as an excuse.
The Warsaw Papers don't exist in the Star Wars universe. So while we're on the subject, with Vice Admiral Holdo, just because there's no point in coming back to it since we've been talking about her so much, let's talk about arguably the best shot of the entire movie. The way she saves the remnants of the rebellion or the resistance. She turns the main ship around, the Raddus around, and she hits the light speed and just blows through it was Snoke's ship. It wasn't the Dreadnought.
It was, what it was First Order Star Destroyers, and then it was the Supremacy, which is a mega class Star Destroyer. They're only one of its kind.
And to save,
ship, right?
Yes.
Okay. Right.
Yep.
To save the resistance, she sacrifices herself by going light speed through these ships, and that shot is amazing.
Yeah.
Derek and I saw this movie together on Thursday, and our entire theater was just silent.
Yep.
I think
there were
Lewis,
gasps.
Lewis was next to me. Lewis just went, "Holy shit!"
Yeah.
Like that was
Yeah.
he grunted that out.
Yeah.
It was just it was an amazing shot, and it wasn't very Star Warsy, but it didn't have to be like that.
But from like a special effects or like even just like a graphics end
a visual,
of things, visual effects. It was beautiful.
Yeah, like that could be a painting. You know.
Yeah, it was a great shot. It was just she basically turned the ship into a railgun and just blasted.
Yeah. Well, it was already running on fumes.
Yeah.
So it didn't even actually make a jump. It just made a partial jump through the ships.
Yeah, and then it took out 3 or 4 ships around it too, because there were a bunch of just exploding Star Destroyers around it. Which
she was able to clip like 3 or 4 Star Destroyers and then completely sever the whole right wing of the Supremacy.
It's a damn cool shot.
Yeah, that was an amazing shot, and that wasn't something I was expecting. Like I once she turned it around, I was like, oh, she's gonna do what they did in Rogue One, just kind of suicide bomb into one of them. No, it was way better.
And it played into allowing both what was left of the
resistance,
the resistance fleet, which is essentially just a few different
escape
transport ships that had just few personnel, and then at the same time we have Finn and Rose who are on the Supremacy trying to finish what was Poe's plan, and then they're about to be executed by Phasma and the Stormtroopers and Hux,
which we're gonna get
when
into this
Holdo runs into the Supremacy.
When we talk about Finn and Rose's storyline next, I want to talk about those stupid axe things that the Stormtroopers had. Those make no sense to me, but we'll get into that in a second. So Alex hated it. Derek liked it. I liked it. Alex is outvoted. It's good.
I'm glad this is a win for murder.
So moving on, we're talking Finn and Rose's story. Finn wakes up in a portable Bacta suit, which leads to one of the funnier lines in the movie where BB-8 is telling Poe that, Finn's awake and he's leaking out of a Bacta suit. And he's just like, Finn awake, leaking what? And is a nice little moment. And then a kind of disoriented Finn is just wandering around, leaking Bacta juice everywhere.
What the hell is going on right now?
And he finds out that Rey is no longer on the ship, that she's on Ahch-To with Luke, and his jacket has been mended. It's very important to mention that. Which actually is kind of cool, because I guess either in the visual guide or somewhere in some extra materials, it states that the jacket was actually mended by Poe. Yep. And you can see little staples or something in there kind of holding everything together. I never saw a good shot of the back of it. But I don't think I actually saw any kind of mendings there, what they had on the shoulder, where Kylo Ren actually put the lightsaber to his shoulder.
Yeah,
but you can see it there on the visual.
There are in his shoulder. Yep, it looks like little metal staples.
And then you also got a nice shot of the portable Bacta juice there.
Yep.
So Finn is trying to escape the Raddus, so Leia has a beacon, and she is becoming incapacitated. So Finn takes the beacon and is going to just jump ship so that Rey can get to the beacon safely. Because if the beacon's destroyed, she can't find her way back. Or, maybe the First Order finds it and lures her into a trap. So he wants to save her because that's Finn's number one motivation through The Force Awakens. And he ends up meeting Rose as she's she's mourning the loss of her sister, who was on the bomber that successfully took out the Dreadnought. So Rose initially is just in awe of this stormtrooper who joined the Resistance and is just, oh, my sister and I loved you. We heard all these stories about you. And she finds that Finn's actually trying to jump ship and he's trying to justify his actions. And she ends up stunning him. And that's kind of where their friendship kicks off on a very nice note. So before we get into anything else, we're gonna go into, did you like the story? Derek?
I like the introduction of Rose's character, or of Rose the character. I think it was nice to have like someone else who Finn could kind of connect with and have a bit more dialogue with besides like just Rey.
And what did you think of like their actual story, though, going to the casino planet of Canto Bight and jumping onto the Supremacy to try and take out that hyperspace tracking technology?
I don't think it was like the most interesting part of everything that occurred in the movie. But I think it was a nice little like break, I guess you could say, during the different action sequences and different plot lines that were occurring.
Alex?
I don't know. It was just kind of there and somewhat pointless. I mean, it was interesting seeing a new planet, but then they didn't really linger on any of the new creatures or anything because they're kind of there. They run around. BB-8 gets filled with coins, which was hysterical to hear him whirling and jingling with coins. That was awesome. But there wasn't. I understood there were that part of the casino scene was supposed to be the cantina style of like, look at all these cool aliens, but they didn't linger on any that I was able to really capture. Like, oh, these guys are interesting. Instead, they just run into another human named Benicio del Toro, which was
DJ.
Yeah,
DJ,
another non-Star Warsy name. But it was like, okay, I would have been more interested if he had been more of a practical effects creature or something, because that's what they spend their money on, which I really appreciate. But it didn't really do much for me. It was just I found Rose's character kind of interesting because she tells Finn at one point that like, are you trying to escape because I've already stunned like 3 people trying to abandon ship, this is not how this goes, kind of thing, which I really liked. I liked that this little medallion thing, her sister had one half, she has the other. I like that she just willingly just chucks it to him when DJ demands payment. She's like, yeah, sure, whatever, here you go, we're doing this for the rebellion, kind of thing. I liked her character. I'm not sure I liked quite where they ended with her character, because that was a little, when you get into
that was a little forced.
No
pun intended.
When you get into the fact that this is a very Empire Strikes Back storyline, which is where it like is like weeks, like what appears to be weeks for one person, but is like 20 minutes for somebody else. That they keep mentioning, we have 18 hours, we have 6 hours, we have 2 hours, we're out of fuel. Then it kind of seems like Poe and Finn and Rose knew each other for 18 hours, and then she starts trying to make out with him.
Well, she thinks she's dying.
Well, I know that, but it's still kind of like. But she professes.
It's a parallel to Rey and Finn as well.
Well, I know, but she literally says, "I love you." Well, she doesn't say. She says,
the things we love."
Yeah, you embrace the things you love, and she like kisses him and passes out. And I'm like, little clingy.
She's a little Lolita.
Yeah, but I mean, I like her character, but I was just disappointed with that we didn't get an epic moment with them on that Cantina Island, with seeing some interesting aliens and creatures, and making it feel more than just a token Las Vegas.
Yeah, first of all, I thought that there would be a pod racing scene in that moment, because
when I saw the track,
you heard like the boom. You heard a boom, and she's like, "Is that?" And she's like all excited about it.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, "Oh my god, it's gonna be pod racing!" And
that's what I was thinking too.
I was so hoping
some weird horse racing thing.
Fathers.
Yeah, whatever. They're horses.
Well, they kind of look like
they're weird horse cats.
They kind of look like, what is it, The Last Guardian? Like the
with longer necks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep, a little
with
bit.
the ears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
That whole plot on Canto Bight was really forced for me because the whole point was to get arrested, to meet DJ, and then break out, and also give the ring to the kid at the end. The subplot or the message of animal cruelty, while poignant, felt extraordinarily forced, and it kind of turned me off to that storyline. But I've seen a lot of people online talk about how their subplot is absolutely pointless. Again, that's kind of the point of the entire movie, is failure. They're there for a mission. They want to go find this guy with the red lapel, who is a master code breaker, and they can't get to him. They fail. They end up in jail. Oh, they coincidentally find someone who is just as good at breaking those codes, and he helps them get onto the supremacy, and he ends up betraying them. He pulls an anti-Lando, where he betrays them and doesn't turn back to good. I like their story. I don't think it was pointless, because again, the whole point was to essentially set up the Finn and Phasma fight that we didn't get in The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
And it also set up the whole, they were trying to succeed in something and they failed.
Well, also, I mean, on Canto Bight, it was also to kind of open Finn's eyes a bit more, because he was enamored with all like the opulence and luxury that was there. Because like, say, a lot of like the trees and all of like the decorations and everything, they actually grew all of that from like a private seed bank from Alderaan. Like,
Yeah,
all
I
of
heard
that.
about that. They had trees inside the casino, and the trees were actually like Alderanian.
Yep. And then they, like, some of the dialogue they had with DJ, which by the way means "don't join," that's his nickname, was to like open their eyes, like, see, like, all these people, they're just war profiteering. They're selling like ships and armaments to both sides. They don't care. All they want is their money.
I like that part.
And it's like to open like Finn's eyes, because Rose kind of like already knows. Maybe she didn't realize that they were also selling, like, the same person is selling stuff to Resistance and the First Order. Maybe she only thought it was just the First Order. But I mean, he did kind of like show him like everyone is there just out for themselves and for their money. They don't care. It like, in terms of what happens to both sides, it's meaningless to them.
Yeah, and you had something, Alex. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I didn't actually. I mean, because when I try to like think of their story, I'm trying to think of an iconic moment, and I keep thinking of BB-8 moments, because he travels with them for this part of the journey. But I really actually did like the part where DJ is on the ship that he stole with BB-8, and when they're leaving, and he starts going through the records of like, oh, let's see what kind of person this was, and it's like, oh yeah, selling munitions to the. Selling resistance to the Empire, First Order, whatever.
Yep.
And then he's like, oh, look at that. He was also selling to the Rebellion. I really like that part, because, yeah, they got to get their ships from somewhere. And the same person could be like, and here's a Star Destroyer for you, and here's an X-Wing. And actually, I like that. And Poe's look was kind of, well, not Poe, sorry, Finn's look was kind of pissed off. Like, what are you talking about? Of course we wouldn't be buying from third parties. I actually like that.
Yeah, that was a really important plot point. It's relevant to the real world, and it also kind of shows you the different side of the Star Wars universe. Like, we're all focused on the First Order, the Empire versus the Rebellion, the Resistance.
Good versus bad.
And then there's that middle ground of just, like, whores, essentially.
Yeah.
People who are just making money off of everyone else's misery. So it's a very poignant point, and it's very topical as well, but it also fits within the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
So the last thing we're going to talk about in this part of the story, is the Battle of Crate. Finn's ready to sacrifice himself, and Rose plows into him to try and save him, or she does save him, and she basically is almost mortally wounded by her actions, and she professes her love. This moment made me almost cringe, not just necessarily because of the fact that she's professing love to someone she's met within the last 24 hours, which is very Disney princess, I was just really nervous that he was going to start going, Rose, 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 and I was going to be like, oh god, that's Titanic.
That would have been awesome. Especially, she just kind of whispers, Jack.
I don't know. I thought it was an okay little bit of a distraction, but it's not really what grabbed my attention or what I really paid attention to throughout the movie.
I was just kind of hoping for something from them that I would actually find kind of memorable. I mean, other than the fact that I liked her character. Here's the thing that kind of annoyed me. I thought she... okay, maybe this might be my personal... I thought it was a missed opportunity, because I thought when she was playing with the medallion and stuff, I thought that was her lover on the ship. I didn't realize it was her sister. And then she turns out to be, it's my sister, and then she falls in love with the next available guy. I was kind of annoyed by that a little bit, because I was like, oh man, that sucks. She lost her love and the thing, and then it turns out, it's my sister, which I was like, okay, but then she falls in love with this guy. I'm like,
Well, if you're looking for extra representation, apparently Vice Admiral Holdo is a lesbian in the Star Wars universe. So,
and they really showed that with not a freaking scene.
It's prevalent in the Leia book, I believe.
Oh, okay.
It fills in the backstory because I guess she's in there as well.
Is that what that handhold moment between them was supposed to allude to or something?
It's supposed to allude to a history with them where they've known each other for years, even though she's just now been introduced.
Actually, yeah, I did read a little bit. They've known each other since Holdo was a teenager, because they both were together in some sort of academy or training program when they were senators with the Imperial Senate.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
So transitioning Holdo to Leia, we're going to talk about Leia's story briefly because it's a very brief story.
Yeah.
Basically, she's General Leia for about 5 minutes, and then she gets sucked out into the vacuum of space through an explosion, not caused by Kylo Ren, but through another TIE fighter.
Yeah, I think it was an important moment, just because they were trying to run from the fleet, and then the Star Destroyers send out their squadrons of TIE fighters, and then Kylo goes out personally.
After getting badmouthed by Snoke pokes the bear.
He's pissed off. Yeah, he's on one of his little tantrums.
Wait, this battle is the one after the jump, right? They first jump and then they get
tracked again.
Yep. Yeah,
right.
And then
the timeline
you can see he has his sights right on
the
bridge
of
the ship.
Because they force sense each other, right?
Yeah, because they can tell. I mean, it's mother and son, and then they're both Force users. But he goes to put his hand on the trigger, but he just can't bring himself to do it. He was able to do it for his father, but he just couldn't bring himself to do it. But one of his other wingmen didn't have those reservations at all.
Yeah, and so Leia gets sucked out into the vacuum of space, which immediately I'm just like, oh, I thought they said Episode 9 was supposed to be Leia's movie, but they killed her off. And then they just kind of... And also, a very important note, Admiral Akbar dies in this scene as well.
Yeah, that pissed me off.
Supposedly, he says
it's a trap.
It's a trap or something. I don't know. It was his last trap, Sad Panda.
No, I didn't. I was listening. I was like, oh, hey, it's that's got to be Akbar or one of the others. I didn't hear him say it's a trap. I'm gonna have to rewatch and listen to that.
Yeah. So she gets sucked out in the vacuum of space, and I'm assuming she's like, oh, that's kind of weird. And then she uses the Force to bring herself back onto the bridge, and they open the door and bring her back in. So I mean, she's incapacitated. She's in some kind of coma because obviously being stuck out in the vacuum of space for even a matter of moments is gonna
with an explosion.
Yeah.
Mind you.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's a very.
It's the first time we see her physically use the Force, not just sensing thing.
Precisely. Yeah, I think it was long overdue because we've always seen Luke go about and do all his stuff as a Jedi and Jedi Knight and Jedi Master. But we'd never actually seen Leia do anything more than just being able to feel something through the Force.
And basically what I got out of Leia's story is she's mentoring Poe to kind of replace her. That's the only thing I could come up with out of her story is because she's incapacitated up until the point where they're getting ready to evacuate to Crate. And then she is basically just sitting in a room like, oh, well, we're stuck in Helm's Deep and waiting to die.
Yeah.
So I think her whole arc was basically just trying to get Poe to see the bigger picture and get him ready to be a leader, not just a hero.
Well, he's like a key character. I mean, it's not just him though. I mean, it's the whole like next generation, all of these resistance fighters who are vastly younger than her. Like, she knows she has to do everything she can because she's not going to be around forever to do so.
Yeah, so her getting sucked out into space for a little while ends up with Holdo taking over for a while.
Correct.
And then after Poe's plan completely fails, she wakes back up, storms into the room, and shoots him in the face, which I actually really appreciated, because at that point...
There's your consequence.
But then more people die. and then she's awake. She's like, listen, Holdo had a plan all along, kind of thing. And then they land on the planet, being one of the few ships to actually get there. And I don't know. I mean, I kind of liked her arc. If I'm thinking about it in a story element kind of way, it bothers me a little bit that it seems like they had to push her out of the story so we could get the Holdo subplot, because it's like the writers refuse to allow anyone to second question her, which that kind of annoys me a little bit when I think of it in that manner, which is, why didn't he just challenge Leia instead of Leia like, listen, I have a plan, and he challenged her? Instead, they had to incapacitate her to allow him to subvert somebody else we don't really know or care about.
Well, I think it's because he wouldn't second guess Leia. He respects her too much. He's known her since he was a child.
Yeah.
So he wouldn't second guess her, and Leia would probably let her know the plan. Whereas Holdo is just saying, no, I'm the commander. I'm the new general. You listen to me. I give the orders.
I feel like it was just an action made out of desperation, just because of the situation that they were in. And I also kind of felt like the plan that Holdo had wasn't just her plan. I feel like Leia was in on it too. Like, it was something that they came up with together.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Because
I mean, if there's like a chain of command and like something happened to the top one, like Leia, they need to know, like, hey, this is kind of what I was planning out. Like, obviously, if I'm gone, you're gonna do what you want to do, but I mean, we should probably try and keep the same plan going if we can.
Yeah, I keep thinking like that Leia could have just filled in Holdo's role the entire time versus sidelining her for a while. That kind of, because I wanted to see more of her in the story versus having her unconscious for a while. And I like that she used the Force, but that was really weird. The whole dramatic, kind of floaty in space, like all this stillness, but she just kind of
I thought she like froze time or something, because nothing else was moving until you saw a wider shot of other things like slowly moving, which she was apparently pulling herself pretty quickly.
Yeah,
because nothing else was really moving. Everything was very still, which, I mean, it made for a beautiful shot.
Yeah,
but it looked a little weird just because, again, we didn't really we didn't see how quickly she was actually moving, because they wanted to hold on her and just have her flying.
And did she open the door, or did they? Because I thought
they opened the door.
I thought when she put her hand to it, like she was opening it.
No,
I think that was just her like saying like, "Hey, I'm here. Open the door."
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, shits.
Because when the door is cracked and she walks in and shoots Poe in the face, I thought that was her force knocking the door open. Like, they had like cut around it, and then she kind of like force blasted it, and then just walked in and shot him.
Because
they didn't show like an explosion. The door just kind of blew in. Yeah, so I thought that was her. Like, okay, you guys done?
See that?
Well, I would have been okay with that. I mean, they're not making the movies into a Forced Unleashed at all.
I'm okay with that. That's my new headcanon. I don't remember the door like blowing open. I thought it just kind of fell over.
I thought it was blown into the room. Though.
There's so much to try and remember about the movie, though.
There is. So, Leia's story, and then she has a nice moment with Luke, which is something we didn't get with Han and anyone else besides Leia when he said goodbye in The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
She has a really nice moment with Luke, which again we'll get more into. But yeah, her story was fine. It didn't really have a huge impact on everything, but I mean, obviously it's a big plot point to Poe running off and like doing his own thing, thinking that Holdo's not having the best interest of the Resistance, and obviously Holdo probably taking on her last orders.
Right, and it was just an act of desperation too, because he feels that Leia's down and out, Holdo's not doing anything, someone needs to do something.
Yeah, so we're gonna move on to Rey's storyline, which I think we're gonna combine with Kylo Ren's storyline a little bit.
You basically have to.
Yeah, so we're gonna just kind of get where they start off, which is again one of my favorite moments is when we get reintroduced to Rey walking up to Luke for the first time. Luke takes Anakin's lightsaber, looks at it, looks at Rey, and then just chucks it over his shoulder.
And storms off.
And storms off like, the hell you think you are?
Yep.
And then the first time we see Kylo Ren in this movie as well is kind of a parallel to that, because the entire movie is essentially parallels of the two. We see Kylo Ren in his mask going down to Snoke's throne room, and Snoke just berates him. He just rips him a new one, calls him a child playing Darth Vader. And that's what sets him off to go get his TIE silencer to take on the Resistance fleet.
And smash his helmet.
Yeah. And the moment that I think really stood out for me with Kylo Ren and Snoke is when he hesitates to not shoot Leia. That's a huge moment because, again, Snoke's like, I sense everything. And the whole point of him killing Han Solo is Snoke promises him that if he kills his father, he will grow more powerful on the dark side, but all he feels is regret. He hates himself, he hates everything, but he doesn't feel more powerful.
He just becomes even more conflicted than he already was.
Exactly. He doesn't get that power that he desires. And that's why I think he hesitates with Leia. He's like, I killed my dad and I just feel worse. I don't feel more powerful. Why would killing Leia do anything else for me? So I thought that was a really cool point. But before we dive any deeper, again, what are your thoughts on how their stories played out?
I think it was interesting kind of like seeing how they intertwined, seeing how both like Rey and Kylo have kind of like risen up to be like the most powerful figures in their own respective like light and dark side of the Force. They become like equals. So I think it was interesting seeing those parallels because you see Kylo and you see his like mentor as in Snoke, and you see Rey and then her mentor being Luke, and their own conflicts that they have, and then like the common ground that they have at the same time.
Yeah, they're two sides of the same coin. Essentially, is the point of this storyline.
Yeah, no, I thought their storyline was a lot better than the first one. I'm not really sure I like how they kind of did it. That whole weird Force connection between them was bizarre, but I started growing to like it other than one really gratuitous shot that kind of annoyed the hell out of me. But
with his high-waisted pants.
With his 19...
I think Adam Driver just could not get abs, and they were like, we need you to have abs. He's like, I can't do it, guys. I swear. So they just like put him in really high-waisted pants and just gave him like he's a really weird build too.
What was that whole rumor about Kylo being totally ripped? Like what was that from
SNL? I hear he's got an 8-pack,
Yeah.
or 16-pack or whatever. He just doesn't like showing it off, guys. He's modest, okay?
Sure. So I should ask him to put on clothes.
But yeah, the Force connection is kind of cool.
That's cool. Kind of.
I really liked how they also like Kylo Ren immediately was just like, can you see my surroundings? I can't see yours.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's also a testament though to each of their own like naivety too, because they didn't realize that it was Snoke who was facilitating.
But it was
connection
Snoke because the connection continues after Snoke is dead.
Or
it does, but I mean they're still
spoiler alert.
Close.
We said at the beginning, full spoilers.
Yeah.
We haven't gotten a Snoke story yet, and you say he's dead?
You've seen the movie. Shut up.
No, I would like a little more explanation for how that works, because like at one point Rey's talking to him in the rain, and like he's getting rain, and when it's over he's completely drenched and like water's dripping off of him. But we never got like a back version, which is like, can he like smell the ocean or like feel the breeze? Because he just says, I just see you. You know, so I was just kind of wondering, like, is it just like stronger one way with him? Like Snoke's using him to see her, or does it work the other way just as strongly? Like,
I don't think. I think again. I don't think it was Snoke. I think Snoke knew it was going on. Like he could see into Kylo Ren's mind, so he knew something was going on.
Well, we have to trust what the story said, which is that I did it.
Yeah, Snoke specifically said he was the one who allowed that and did that.
Which is why
that's what he said.
Which
in
sets
the
up
movie.
Luke's thing at the end. He said, I allowed the connection. If I had projected myself, I would have died. And that allows you to eventually get Luke's story at the end of his. So we have to trust that Snoke did it. But
Well, Snoke didn't say that. Kylo Ren did. Kylo Ren said, you can't be doing this. If you were projecting this far out, you'd be dead.
I thought he said that. I thought
Snoke didn't say that. No, Kylo Ren did. Because that
Kylo
was,
said that to Rey.
Yes. I don't think Snoke ever mentioned anything about him dying, because I don't think that's that was never in Snoke's mind. Snoke is Anakin personified again. He's like, I'm not going to die. Or Sidious. He didn't think he was going to be dead.
I swear it doesn't matter. But I have to trust that Snoke is the one who allowed a connection. If he connected them when he did die, doesn't necessarily mean it's broken. He already connected it. He was just using it to spy on them.
I think Snoke's full of shit. I think the connection is created between the back and forth that happened in The Force Awakens, and Snoke's just taking credit for it to show how powerful he is to Kylo Ren. Be like, look what I can do to you. I can make you see people that you don't want to see. So, because I mean, if he could do that, why didn't he do that with Luke before?
Well, because Luke cut himself off from the Force completely.
But they didn't know that. But I mean, why couldn't he do that with Leia? Why couldn't he do that with Han?
Well, Han doesn't
Among
have
other
any...
things, we don't know that you need to have a Force connection to be able to do that.
Right, which is saying now I'm just saying you have to trust what the movie told us. You can't just start making shit up. I mean, because if we start accepting everything from the books and everything, there's answers for everything. You have to accept what the movie said, which the movie said, Snoke says, I did it. So I have to accept that.
Fair enough. My headcanon says otherwise, but you raise a very valid point.
Right.
So
otherwise we're cinema sins and starting to sin shit from the books.
So Rey and Kylo Ren have this psychic connection that we will assume for the time being was created by Snoke, and I think it creates a really awesome relationship between the two. Not shipping them, but like they now understand each other. Yeah. It's almost like an Xavier and Magneto thing where they've become friends, good friends, and they understand each other, and now they have to find a way to defeat each other, and in a worst case scenario, they will have to find a way to kill each other.
See, I don't know if I would say that they become friends. I mean, they definitely got a much better understanding of one another, but they both want very different things. Because Rey is still holding out on the hope that she can turn him back. Because she knows that he still has like some of the light side in him. Because she knows of the conflict that he's always had, and it's just getting worse. Whereas he just wants to see like the end of all of like the light and the dark and the Sith and the Jedi. He's tired of that like cyclical like nature that has always like happened. As to what he actually wants and wants it to become, we don't really know.
No, I agree that I don't think they're necessarily friends. I think it's more like two people. I think it's more like two schoolmates who have one has an abusive teacher and one has a negligent one. And they're just kind of they're just kind of like meeting up like, so what did your dude tell you?
Yeah.
My dude told me this. Well, shit. I think Kylo Ren wants a way stronger connection with her than she necessarily wants with him. Just because of his whole offer of the first movie, like, hey, join me together, we can piss off my dad. And then this movie is like, hey, I've killed Snoke. Join me, and together we can piss off the universe.
Yeah.
The galaxy.
And talking of Snoke, that was the most unexpectedly visceral death I've ever seen. Because among other things, you're not expecting Snoke to die in this movie.
No.
And the way it happens is so cool. And then he gets sliced in half, which, again, I wasn't expecting. At this point, I thought he'd kind of...
Impaled, then sliced in half.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, we only see it come forward. So, yeah, it basically gets sliced through the spine. Yeah. And then Kylo Ren just pulls the lightsaber forward and just slices him in half. Yeah. And you see, like, the hand just staying on the armrest of the throne. It was so different. Like, when he pulled it through, that's when I was like, oh my God.
I guess I've played enough visceral video games that it didn't really faze me all that much.
It's not that it fazed me. It's just unexpected in a Star Wars movie.
For me, I found
slicing someone in half like that. Like, yeah, Darth Maul was sliced in half, but we didn't see the like slicing and the sliding of the body off the top.
And again, I mean, I've played other Star Wars games with like those like realistic lightsaber combat, abilities, I guess you could say. The whole like scene I found a little bit hard to believe that he just didn't notice what Kylo was doing. Like, especially with how powerful Snoke made himself out to be, that he can like create this connection between this mental link between Kylo and Rey, and he can like just shoot out lightning whenever he wants to, and then to have
with the flick of a wrist.
Yeah, and then to just not notice, oh hey, this thing sitting right next to me is turning towards me, but I don't notice it.
Well, he's got his eyes closed. He's sitting there just drinking in Kylo Ren's rage and how he wants to kill his enemy.
Well, don't forget that he also force grabs the lightsaber and beams Rey in the head with it, which I laughed way too hard at that part.
Like
that was such a great parallel to the Return of the Jedi scene in the Emperor's room and on the second Death Star.
Yeah.
It was such a nice parallel, but also different enough.
I mean, visually, it was an excellent like scene. That whole combat sequence, I loved it. It's just that very little part where Kylo was turning the lightsaber towards Snoke. I just personally found that a little bit hard to believe.
I mean, I kind of liked it mostly because I think he was just drunk in his own power at that moment. Because he was narrating what was happening.
Right.
And he's like, and you're turning and twisting the lightsaber, and you're going to strike down your greatest enemy. Which if I was drinking in my power at that moment, I would have been like, your greatest. Wait. Go again. I'm going to hold this here.
Well, in that moment, if he had realized that, he probably would not have let Kylo Ren survive.
No.
So I thought it was interestingly vague, where he's like, I know his every thought. I'm in his head. He is mine. And then all he sees is just this vague image of he's turning his lightsaber on his enemy or his greatest enemy, and he ignites his lightsaber and
yeah.
That part I thought was cool. What did you guys think of the fight scene within the throne room once the Praetorian Guards got involved?
I loved it. I've been waiting for a good like lightsaber action sequence for far too long, because the only bit that we really got was at the very end between Rey and Kylo in The Force Awakens. So I've been waiting to see this in an actual movie for a while.
Oh, it was terrible. The choreography was horrible. That fight scene showed that lightsaber is so stupidly designed you can't use it. Like, there's 2 or 3 times where he's like has to stick it through the ground and drag it, and I saw twice where where he's facing away from somebody, and like one of the stunt guys kind of goes in and then steps back because he like either missed his mark or he realized, well, if I stab him in the back right now, he's dead. You're fighting that many people. And they all have different. I like the weapons. I thought the weapons were pretty freaking cool. That the Imperial Guard or Emperor's Guard,
Praetorian Guards.
They actually call them Praetorian. They actually They actually take it from the Roman.
They don't know what the Romans are. It's from a galaxy.
But the Praetorian Guard is the Roman Guard that guarded the Emperor.
Well, take it up with George Lucas. He's the one that made them.
It's the Praetorian Guard. There's pairs. There's 8 of them, and there's 4 pairs.
But it was really badly done. And then you would expect 2 people who have the Force to actually use the Force. And they didn't do Force blocks. They didn't. Okay, so here's the part that bothers me about this. Kylo Ren is introduced badassly walking off the ship, and he grabs a blaster bolt out of the air, holds it, lectures some people, yells at some people, stabs a guy, leaves, flies away, then is released. How can he not just force shove somebody, or at least block or get them away from him, or create some distance? And then, of course, we have Rey, who also has some innate force ability. Who, I mean, yes, they say that she wasn't fully trained by Luke, but she does know how to use her thing. After all, she attacks and beats the shit out of Finn at one point, and she fought off Kylo Ren in the first one. There was no actual usage of the Force. It was a sword and knuckle fight, and I was just confused as to why they actually didn't use their powers to overcome them. It was a bunch of sword blocking, a few kicks, a few blocks, and then the only kind of force thing to happen was at the end when she threw the lightsaber and he grabbed it out of the air and ignited it and killed the guy in his head. That was cool. But the choreography didn't do anything for me. I expected something like, I know in The Phantom Menace, they use force powers the entire time fighting one Sith, the 2 of them. You have 8 people you have 8 against 2, and there's not a single usage of the Force. Why didn't that happen? Why didn't they create distance, why didn't they challenge them? Because if these guys can go one-on-one with lightsabers, why didn't they use their innate advantage of, we're actually Force users, you guys ain't?
That's a valid argument.
I'm kind of in the same boat as Alex. The choreography felt kind of clunky. There were some badass moments. Rey dropping the lightsaber, slipping out of a grip, and then grabbing it and tossing it to Kylo Ren.
That was cool.
That was a cool moment. But other than that, I really didn't have a lot to do in that moment. Like, Rey looked really awkward holding Kylo Ren's broadsaber. Again, like, why wouldn't they use the Force? Maybe I don't know. Maybe their red armor prevents the Force from working, and they just intuitively knew that or something. Probably not. Derek's researching now in his visual.
Yeah,
history.
I mean, if the armor blocks the Force, they could have mentioned that, and I would have been totally accepting. Like, cool. Then you have to actually just use your enhanced speed and ability. Well, that's another thing is that
the armor can block lightsabers. And blaster fire.
Then how did they all die from lightsaber slashes?
Probably through different segments in the plates.
Chinks in the armor.
But one was right through the face. And she cut one in half.
I'm just reading what it says in the book, okay?
No, I understand. I'm just...
And wasn't the end of that scene where they split Anakin's saber in half?
Yeah, that was really cool too. Yep. That was amazing.
Yeah, that was a nice parallel to The Force Awakens, where they're both fighting over the lightsaber, trying to force pull it to themselves. Although this time they're in opposite ends, and so now the lightsaber is being pulled in opposite directions. Why she ends up with both halves, I don't know.
I assume she picked him up.
But again, well, yeah, they both become knocked unconscious.
Yeah, because it explodes, which I'm assuming that's the kyber crystal fracture, and that's what caused the shattering, or maybe it's energy cell.
I think it's just the energy cell, because
probably
you
both.
see the kyber crystal when she's holding it and talking to Leia. You actually can see the kyber crystal poking out.
Oh, is that okay? But actually, so that actually leads me to a thing. General Hux, I feel really like I keep thinking him as Bill Weasley because he is Bill Weasley, but. When Snoke was dragging him and slamming him around on the ship for the failure to stop him from jumping lightspeed, I really liked. I love that when he found Kylo Ren in that room, he just starts pulling out the blaster until Kylo Ren stirs, and he's like,
just waiting for his moment.
Yeah, I was like, holy crap, are we gonna have Weasley just shoot Kylo? Oh my! And then
it's a testament to Hux's personality that he will do anything if it means that he can get to where he wants to be in the First Order.
I just love that part, because I expected him to kind of be either go over to Snoke and kind of oh my god, or go over to are you okay? But no, he's just oh shit, Snoke's dead, the ship's half destroyed.
Kylo Ren's the only one in my way.
Yeah, he doesn't care.
Yeah,
and I did like that moment where he kind of assumes that he assumes the Supreme Leader role.
Yeah.
And then Kylo Ren's just kind of like, what now?
Yeah.
And he just goes, all hail the new Supreme Leader.
Oh, well, don't forget, he force choked him.
Yeah.
He force choked him to his knees, and he's all hail the new Supreme Leader.
Yeah.
I really like that.
Yeah, Hux gets tossed around a couple of times. Hux, Kylo Ren are hanging out inside of one of the new AT-ATs, and when Luke shows up in the Battle of Crate, Kylo Ren is like, I'm going down there. And Hux is just like, not a good idea. He just flicks his wrist and throws him against the wall. That was a good moment. But yeah, there's so much to do with Rey and Kylo. This is, as much as this is Luke's movie, this is Rey and Kylo's movie.
Right, but going back, so they end up killing the Praetorian Guard, and
then they fight over Anakin's.
Well, Kylo Ren turns to her and goes cool, now that this is done, let's rule the galaxy together. And she's like, I don't, she's like, I'm not down with it. And she's like, well, why not? We're in charge now. Everybody's dead but us, kind of thing. And I actually really like that moment, because that's where he starts explaining there is no good, there is no bad, there's only the First Order, and we can rule it and contain it. And then she's like, yeah, no, there is good and bad. I actually really like that moment between them. As much as I didn't like Kylo Ren in the first movie, he in many ways redeemed himself in this one, because he has reasons now for being kind of a whiny bastard.
They made him a much more relatable and understandable character, not just throwing fits for the sake of he didn't get his way.
Yeah, and I actually almost kind of understand where he was going, because he turned on the guy who made him kill his dad and who wants his mom dead and basically who wants everybody dead, and it was all to get to Luke. Luke being a hermit for 20 years is apparently still a challenge for Snoke. And I'm not sure I necessarily think that Kylo Ren's story necessarily ends with him like, yeah, I'll be a good guy now. But I think it more shows along the lines that he can actually... he has his own arc of what he believes is right and wrong. And I actually like that.
And among other things, he's now ascended to a higher place in the government than Darth Vader ever did. Because if the Emperor dies and Darth Vader is still evil, Darth Vader probably becomes the new Emperor.
Right.
Or Grand Moff Tarkin takes his place if he's not dead at the end of A New Hope. But now Kylo Ren is the supreme leader. He's the one in charge, and he has the ability and the means to make whatever he wants to have happen. And that is something that'll be interesting, because as we wind down on this one, we've still got a few things to talk about. We still got some time. Kylo Ren, they made him much more relatable, but they also filled in a quote-unquote plot hole from The Force Awakens where Maz has Luke's and Anakin's lightsaber, where if you remember in the scene where he and Luke are confronting each other in the past, he pulls up the blue lightsaber and he defends himself from Luke, who has his green lightsaber.
Yep.
Which means Luke went back and found the lightsaber and gifted it or heirloomed it to Ben.
Or
Was that the same lightsaber?
Yeah.
I just thought it was...
which also implies, like, when he sees Rey take it from him in The Force Awakens, he says, that lightsaber belongs to me.
and who knows, that Lando could have come across it
Exactly.
too,
Oh.
being on Cloud City.
I didn't get that at all. I know it was a blue lightsaber. I just assumed it was blue because, it was blue. I didn't... Oh, I'm gonna have to relook
I mean,
for that because
I
I didn't see the shape of it.
And
so
I'm
couldn't
guessing
tell.
I don't know how he would have lost it. That's a new question, because I assume when he leaves Luke's temple, or Luke's school, he has that lightsaber with him. So somewhere along the way, he probably lost it, and Luke got it and hit it with Maz.
That probably would make sense to me, because he probably gifted it to Kylo or Ben.
Ben.
And then, I mean, Ben could have lost it during his rampage of destroying the whole temple and killing everyone inside.
All but I think they said he kept 12 alive.
No, then Luke's newest batch of students that included Kylo was 12.
Okay.
And then he killed everybody but like a handful he took with him.
Which is assumed to become the Knights of Ren.
Yeah, where are they?
They're not. They're not important to the story.
Oh, okay.
Well, not yet, at least.
Yeah.
We don't really know.
I think they'll be important in supplemental material. I don't think they're important to the story.
Well, maybe. Well, I don't know. We could go off in speculation. But...
Yeah.
Which we will at the end of all this. But yeah, I thought that was kind of a cool filler where it's implied that maybe Luke gifted this. He's like, hey, my mentor Ben gave me my father's lightsaber. It murdered a bunch of kids, so you must like it.
Yeah.
Or it was used to murder a bunch of kids.
And then according to this canon, if that is his lightsaber, he then uses it to murder a bunch of more kids.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's kind of about
that lightsaber
time.
got to go.
Yeah, well, I mean, it got torn in half, so, I mean, I think it was about time for it to be decommissioned at this point.
It'd be awesome if in the next one she, like, kind of puts it back together and she's like, you won't murder this time, I promise.
Oh, jeez.
So we're going to start talking Luke, because we've kind of alluded to about all of this. Luke's story, the reason why he's on Ahch-To is because he is just full of regret, and he's cut himself off from the Force because he started this new Jedi Academy, and he brought Ben in on Leia and Han's insistence, and he senses the dark side in Ben, and in a moment of weakness, he goes to kill Ben. He ignites his green lightsaber and is ready to kill him, but in that moment where his lightsaber ignites, he says the feeling was just fleeting and it was gone. Like the minute he ignited the lightsaber, that he just was filled with regret.
Yeah.
And he immediately was just like, I can't do this. And Ben wakes up in that moment with his lightsaber still lit and perceives it as an attack, and he comes at Luke and he destroys the hut that he's living in, and then he goes and destroys the academy, and that's why Ben is now Kylo Ren, where it also reveals like why he hates his parents, why he hates Luke, and I mean his parents sent him off to become a Jedi, and his Jedi teacher betrayed him. which is why he hates the light side of the Force and why he doesn't want to be moved to the light side of the Force again.
Mm-hmm.
And so Luke's story picks up with exactly where The Force Awakens left off, which the way they started this movie kind of reinforces my feeling that The Force Awakens easily could have ended on Rey just leaving off in space. And then we could have picked up immediately with Luke and Rey meeting on this island. You didn't have to set up the island. There was nothing that was set up in The Force Awakens about the island. So I feel like with where we picked up with Luke and Rey, didn't need to happen in The Force Awakens. I feel like that was just an extra 90 seconds of runtime that they needed. I don't know. That's just my feeling on that moment. But Luke shows up and he's just going about his daily routine with the annoyance of Rey following him. And we see him milk some giant sea monster, get some green milk, and we get a really awkward shot of him like taking a big swig and like, yeah, this is good stuff.
Yeah.
I've seen the internet really hate that moment.
That's funny. I thought it was great.
Yeah, it's funny. It's kind of there to kind of gross Rey out, try and get her to go.
Yeah.
It just shows that he's been there for a while and he's become accustomed to living on the island.
Yeah, he does that little spear fishing leap thing.
Yeah,
and then
which is
stabs
cool.
this massive 7-foot fish or something. That was cool.
Yeah, and slings it over his shoulder, and Rey's just kind of bothering him, pulling a Doctor Strange, essentially just saying like, "Hey, train me." No, shuts the door on him. Train me. No, shuts the door. Then we finally get Chewbacca, who's had enough of this shit, and slams open the door with his Wookiee strength, and we get a great moment of Mark Hamill does such a good job with this role.
Yeah.
Because you get this weary Luke voice, but then when Chewie shows up, you get a little bit of that young Luke back. He's like,
Yeah.
Chewie, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then same thing when he meets R2 again. He's like, R2? He just has that young Luke voice again. Mm-hmm. And it's so great to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
So what do we think of Luke's story?
I liked it. I think it was good. It wasn't what I was expecting, which I think is good.
Well, 90% of this movie is not what I was expecting.
True. But I mean, we all had our own speculations as to what has he been doing all of this time? Where has he been? We know he's been on this island. We know he was searching for the first Jedi temple,
But we don't know why.
We don't know. So we just had all this anticipation, and then kind of see that he's just kind of become this hermit. He's shut himself off from the Force. He's just been living on this island in these unfavorable conditions, pretty much, of just fishing and drinking God knows whatever the hell that green stuff was. I
Your
liked
book
it.
doesn't have what the monsters are?
I like that it has the fish that he
think so.
stabbed. It's
Yeah,
cool.
it does have. It's this weird,
Yeah.
squid type fish thing. I don't know, but I liked his story. I think it was adequate enough to give us an idea as to what he's been through.
I like the story. I liked almost all of it except for the very, very end part. I have a question or three about that. But for the most part, I liked it. It showed that, he just took off. I really liked that Kylo Ren showed Rey one version of what happened that night, which was a pretty cool fucking scene with, Luke, just angry and these, you can see, Sith look, the Sith eyes kind of thing, and this rage look as he leaned over him. I'm pretty sure the blade was still green, wasn't it, in both
Yes.
of them? Yeah, okay.
Yes. Because
I know the colors palette was completely different. And then when Luke actually explained what happened, it was, you saw this kind of wary, scared man of what is becoming of this guy who I know has this darkness with him. And I really liked his story. I liked how he had been. I liked when he'd been on the island. I liked he had this routine that the porgs and these other little Oompa Loompa creatures were taking care of the island and preserving it. I really liked the wariness and the Lanais. I really liked
Which they look like they're just grown-up porgs.
Which actually, if you read, they are
Distant relatives.
genetically related to the porgs.
Because that explains the feet.
Yep.
Yeah, I really liked what they did. I liked that they gave him a moment with Leia, a long moment with Leia at the end, and I liked his embrace of Chewie, and I liked the little R2 moment, which I'm starting to kind of get a little bit annoyed that R2 has no, that doesn't have anything to do with these
Yeah, he's
movies.
just hanging out in low power mode in the corner, and then Luke shows up, and he's like, "Oh, hey!"
But like C-3PO continues to have a very large role. He has a ton of lines in this movie.
But I think he has like no dialogue up until like when Poe's back on the bridge. He has a few lines. When Poe's doing his mutiny, he has a few lines, and then he has nothing until Luke shows up at the end.
Yeah, but he's still there. That's the thing, is that he's still a presence in there, and he does have lines, and you see he has 2 gold arms again and stuff like that.
He had 2 gold arms at the end of The Force Awakens.
Did he?
Yeah.
When did they do that? No, I'm just saying.
When they were doing the attack on Starkiller Base.
Someone decided to give up a
No, they have nothing better to do, so why not make sure 3PO has an extra gold arm when he dies?
Okay.
If they fail.
Okay, I didn't realize that. But I really like Luke's story up until the kind of little twist at the end. Because I think Mark Hamill brought a badassness to the role that you felt that like he was just wary and tired. He's like, I've been teaching a bunch of kids and I fucked up. And then I actually really found... At first I was kind of annoyed, but then I really liked that Yoda reappeared with him.
The Yoda appearance was really cool.
It was surprising.
The angles on the puppet occasionally looked really weird.
I think it's because they actually used the puppet, though.
Yeah, and that was kind of the point, but it's still... I feel like the cinematographer should have been like, the puppet looks weird here, we should change the angle.
Well, and they also didn't like keep him blue the entire time. There's a few parts where like they had close-ups and they let the blue go away, and so you could tell it was just the puppet, which I thought was kind of cool. And I also like that they set up that apparently even though you're a ghost, you still have badass powers, because he beats Luke in the head a few times with his stick.
Yep.
Strike me down and I'll become more powerful than you can ever imagine.
And then he's able to call lightning from the sky.
Yep. Yep.
I really enjoyed that too. I've listened to a few reviews, and they all kind of have the same idea that Yoda knew that Rey took the text.
Well, he said it flat out.
Well, he said nothing. She has everything that she needs.
There's nothing in that library that she does not already possess.
In the tree,
there's nothing in the tree that she does not already possess.
Yeah.
And I said out loud, I went, she stole the damn books.
Yeah,
and then of course they're in the Millennium Falcon.
I didn't really pick up on that. I thought
Neither
Yoda was
did
like
I.
showing a show of faith, like agreeing with Luke that these waves of the Jedi need to end. But no, Rey took him, and he's just like, yeah, okay, let's burn down the tree together, have a nice bonfire.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really nice moment, and
it was the way he said it that I was like, she stole the books.
Yeah, I when I saw it, I've only seen it the one time, so again, I'm only going off of what I remember.
Yeah.
And there's a really quick shot at the very end of the movie where you see the texts in a drawer, and I was like, did Yoda put them there? Is that why he was okay with burning down the tree, or did Rey steal them? But every other review that I've listened to so far has agreed that Rey stole them, which is why Yoda was like, yeah, cool, let's burn the temple down.
Yeah, she was just taking off. She, took off, grabbed some stuff, and pilfered some stuff on the way out, which is perfectly fine. Not like Luke read any of the books anyway, which that kind of annoyed me and amused me all at once. There's nothing in there. It's all a bunch of wisdom. You're like, oh, you've read them? Not really.
I did also...
page turners.
Speaking of Luke and Rey dialogues, I did like the... where are you from, Rey? From nowhere. No one's from nowhere. From Jakku. Oh, well, yeah, that's basically nowhere. So Rey from nowhere.
Yeah, no, the only thing... Well, might as well. The only thing that kind of bothers me is that I'm really hoping Luke's in the next one, because...
He kind of has to be.
He has to be.
Well, the thing about it, so Rey takes off because Luke's like, fuck it, I'm not helping anybody. I don't trust you, which I actually really like that they got into a brief fight. And when he first pulled and started blocking, and he whooped her ass until she put a lightsaber on him. I was like, okay, cool. That's good. That shows that he still is a Jedi Master. That he's kept up his fitness, which obviously is his day-to-day thing. He's hiking everywhere.
Yeah,
I like that, and I like that he kind of is basically like, yeah, no, I'm not going to help you. My time here is done. I fucked up too much.
Yeah,
and his thing was constantly saying that the Jedi's basically belief of good and evil just fucked everything.
Yeah,
and I allowed myself. But so Rey takes off. Ends up on the Falcon on Not Hoth, which, by the way, did you watch the credits? So when they're on the mining planet and everybody's getting in the trenches, the AT-ATs are coming. There's the blaster, and I'm just like, oh yeah, basically this is the Hoth battle, and everything's white. And that guy like touches the ground and then licks it and goes salt. And I went, that is such a line just for the damn movie, so people don't go there. It's the snow planet. And then if you watch the credits, it says like Lieutenant something Salt. And I'm like, oh, because he's the guy who said salt.
I did notice that.
But so it's their last moment. Rose already kissed and made out with Finn and then passed out. And they're gonna like storm in and destroy everything. And Luke appears in the base because they sent out a call to the Resistance using General Leia's personal code, letting them know that I need help, and nobody shows up. Which I thought that was a really cool plot point too. To show the whole like.
Yep.
Everyone was too afraid of the First Order at this point.
Well, also not only that, but it goes with you guys are saying that this is about passing the torch. Is that Leia, you've been doing this for like 50 freaking years. We're not helping you now. Somebody else needs to be there. Something needs to happen. And Luke shows up and he has trimmed hair and his beard is brown instead of white.
I like that a lot.
And I was
gave
like,
him a clean up look, made him look a little younger.
Which is why it's a force projection, because what is it, like Yoda doesn't quite look as old, Obi-Wan doesn't quite look as old, Anakin de-aged 30 years, which pissed me off, but anyway. And he shows up and he has this moment with Leia and he hands a little
the dice. Han Solo's dice from the Millennium Falcon.
Have those always been there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah. I've never
really
closely in A New Hope. They're dangling there.
I've never noticed that. So I was assuming they've always been there and they just didn't make it up. So anyway, so he has a moment with her and they kind of chat for a moment and he says something. He says something to C-3PO, doesn't he?
Yeah. He gives 3PO a little like
wink.
Yeah. And then 3PO just goes, Master Luke.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then he walks out through the hole in the blast door and walks across this field and there's 12 ATs.
I think there's like 5 or 6. There's not that many.
There's a lot because there's a little branch of them. There's quite a few of them.
Within the shot, there's only maybe a handful.
Okay. And he walks out, so another thing is because whenever you touch the salt, you rub off the top layer and you reveal like the red clay beneath. And he doesn't leave, the ATM6s?
Yep.
Okay.
The not AT-ATs.
Anyway, so he walks out there and they see this, the Resistance just see, the last of them just see this figure walk out. The First Order sees this figure walk out, and Kylo Ren, I love this part, he freaks out and just starts screaming, fire everything. And Luke just gets blasted with dozens upon dozens of shots of everything. The ground's blowing up, this red and white everywhere.
There's like a mushroom shot of this red dust.
It's beautiful, beautiful shot. And then, Hux finally goes, I think we got him, And it fades, and Luke is still there, and he's smiling.
And he just brushes a little dust off his shoulder.
Oh,
yeah,
that was and I like the fact that he just did one.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a
both sides.
Yeah,
that was just like a definite come at me, bro.
Yeah, just one quick you didn't get me.
And then Kylo Ren goes down there. They briefly trade a few shots, and Luke gives his speech about how if you kill me in anger, I will always be a part of you. And Kylo Ren slices him in half, except he doesn't. Because it turns out it's a force projection, which I was like, okay, that makes a lot of sense now. Because
there's a couple of shots of the feet between the two, like they're shifting to get into position, and Kylo's dragging his feet, and you see the red where Luke is lifting up his feet, and there's no red. And immediately I was like, something's not right.
See, I thought that might be the only thing that made me think. I mean, I was pretty damn certain it was a projection because he de-aged, and you always project a younger version of yourself at the first for some reason. I only thought maybe that he elevated to such a level that he's kind of like Legolas, and Legolas can walk on snow, and he can walk on salt. I thought that would be like, he's so in tune with everything now, and he allowed the Force to repenetrate him, that he doesn't mark the ground. I thought that would have been cool. And then it turns out that he was actually just stalling for time, which is fine. And then there's the beautiful, beautiful shot of him hovering on that little platform on the island. He then collapses kind of from exhaustion. The double suns rise, and he fades out with the Force, which was so beautiful. My only minor thing that I didn't like about it was I wish, because they've shown that like Kylo Ren with the projections, they are able to touch hands, hold hands. He gets wet. They can see each other. He gives something to Leia. They touch each other. They actually Kylo and him match blades for a moment, which the blue lightsaber is another thing.
Yeah,
I'm like
why
that's
can't it be the
his
green
old
one?
lightsaber.
Yeah.
Where's his green one? Only thing was, I wish Luke would have taken out some of those machines or something. That he would have exuded his force to because I understand he was stalling for time. They still got to get the Falcon out of there and all that stuff. But that he would have with that barrage, that he would have been deflecting some of them and destroying some of the stuff. That we would have seen. I mean, yes, it's a badass moment, but it's taken a little bit away when you realize he's just a protection. So he's just like, okay, you're not hurting me, so whatever. I wish he would have exuded more of the Force to actually show what an elevated Jedi Master can do against literally an entire army. That's my only thing that I hate about that moment. Well, not hate. It's just it pulls back a little bit. That I'm like, if we could have seen just a little epicness from him beyond that.
I don't know. I think that would have been stretching it a little too far, because I don't think I've ever seen in any, even like the past expanded universe, now Legends, I've never seen a Force user like be on one planet and then halfway across the galaxy like fight doing something
Have a
with the
physical
Force.
manifestation.
Yeah,
But
and
he
like
did-
physically affect things with the Force across that far when they're already projecting their own presence to
Right.
be there. I think that would just be taking it. I mean, that would be awesome and badass, but I think that would just be taking it a step too far.
Yeah, but he still stopped the blades. He and Kylo matched blades a few times, and he stopped it. So I mean, he can exude something. That's my only thing. I mean, yeah, he literally is across the galaxy and he does this, which I think is a beautiful moment. I just would have liked to seen just a little bit.
But maybe doing that much effort
Well,
would have killed him even faster.
yeah, that's the thing. We don't know. We don't, because they've never fully explained Force powers. I mean, in one of the extended universe books, Luke is on the ground and literally grabs a Star Destroyer and yanks it out of the sky and smashes it into the ground. You know, they don't give. And then Chewie, to kill him, took a literal planet hitting him.
Yeah, hitting a moon or a planet. Yeah.
I know. I'm just saying that's the only thing I wanted a little something to show what his full power would be, but I still think it was beautifully done. And I loved when they finish and he's just standing there. I'm like, that's just awesome.
Yeah,
Luke is still there.
That was an awesome moment. My only gripe with that entire moment is I know they set it up where he's like, I came to this island to die, or I came to this planet to die. I really wish they wouldn't have killed him off, especially in the wake of Carrie Fisher's untimely death.
Yeah.
Which would have been a very quick edit where you just see him roll off the thing and he just sits back down. You know, that could have been open-ended. You know, did he live? Did he die? We don't know. Wait till episode 9.
Yeah. Well, his X-wing is still there. Did you see that?
Yeah,
that was cool.
Yeah, that was a cool shot. Where
He
he just
just sank the X-wing.
Actually, the door going to his little hut is made from one of the wings.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so I that's my only personal gripe with the way Luke's story ended is I really didn't want him to die.
No.
I really wanted him to be redeemed in a different way, not just be like, okay, I'm going to do one last thing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I ended up on that one.
I feel like it was important that he did, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, going back to the conversation that he had with Yoda, like, they both, at this point in time, realize that, I mean, something needs to change. There's been this, like, cyclical nature of the Jedi versus the Sith, the light versus the dark, and it's just over and over and over and over. One side grows powerful than the other, and then there's conflict, and then it reverses. Yeah. Like, something needs to change. Like, we need to get, like, a fresh, clean slate and start over.
No, I agree with that. I think I kind of understood why he was going to die. I wanted just something, a little, like, not palate cleanser, but a little sample of how powerful he actually would be at his full height. But who knows? I mean, Yoda yanked lightning from the sky as a ghost.
Now, I mean, just like he said, now he can be there and he can help Rey at all times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so we're running a little long. We're getting close to running a little long at this point. So we're gonna cut the stories and the character stuff here. We're gonna get into our questions, but first we have to give our official Talking Smack ratings. Which, again, if you've heard our Thor Ragnarok or Justice League reviews, we only do 2 ratings. We do must see or hard pass. So for me, it's a must see. If you don't agree with me, I'm sorry, you're wrong. It's a must-see largely because this movie is very dependent on seeing this movie multiple times to take everything that happens in. Like we're all going off of one viewing, and we don't have all the answers. We don't have all of the details. I know a lot of people that have seen it multiple times. Like, oh yeah, this all makes so much more sense now. I know a lot more about it just because of listening to other reviews. But it's still, some of the reviews just, again, still don't answer all of the questions that would linger and be answered by a second viewing, especially picking up on little foreshadowing moments. But this is definitely a must-see for me.
I would definitely say it's a must-see as well. Because even if you're not entirely a huge Star Wars fan, I think it's still a movie that can be enjoyed by someone just of the average, like, audience.
You know, I definitely would say it's just seen it. I'm not sure it necessarily needs to be seen in theaters, other than you need a big ass TV at home if you're going to watch it at home, because some of these shots are just absolutely gorgeous. I wasn't a fan of The Force Awakens. I tried watching it twice and I just couldn't. But this one I would rewatch because I'm trying to. There's little things I want to like finish piecing together. I'm not saying I love it love it immensely. But they did. There's a lot of moments of just pure respect, and Mark Hamill alone is worth it. Leia's when she's awake, Leia's moments are really great. I actually do like Ren, and I like Rey, and I actually kind of begrudgingly now respect at least Kylo Ren, at least where he's going with his story.
It makes The Force Awakens a lot better. I couldn't tell you where I rank this movie in the Star Wars movies, largely because it really depends on where they go with 9. Like, what happens in 9 is largely going to depend on how I view Episode 8. I still think overall it's better than, like, Phantom and the Attack of the Clones, not Rise of the Clones. Right. I think it's definitely better than those. It's probably better than Revenge of the Sith. It's probably better than Return of the Jedi. But I think how well I remember it and how good I feel about it is largely dependent on what happens in Episode 9.
Well, I wouldn't even say you need to watch The Force Awakens to see this one. The opening title crawl of like a whole like Rey goes to find Luke thing. None of that, in my opinion, necessarily matters. It starts off with the whole the Resistance is in shambles. Rey's found Luke. I mean, you could just kind of tack on Luke was missing for a while. We went and found him. The Resistance is in shambles. I do kind of wonder where they're going to go with 9, because it's effectively Rian Johnson kind of effectively took all the questions that you had after The Force Awakens and said doesn't matter. Snoke, who is Snoke? Doesn't matter. Who's where's Luke? Dead. What's happening with the First Order? They're almost completely in control. What's the Resistance? 3 guys. Yeah. 3 guys lay in a ship. So 9 is essentially a clean slate to start with, because you don't have to worry about the baggage of Snoke. You don't have to worry about baggage of anything. Your main bad guy running their universe.
Right.
Your main lady has the books to teach the Jedi.
Which is the whole point. I feel like this whole movie was just a transition. It's a transition going into like a new era, a new age.
Which that brings up a point. I know I said we're done with the story, but what do you guys think? What do you think the point of the kid with the broom at the end is?
I don't think there was anything. In my opinion, the kid with the broom thing, it just goes to show. Well, what is it? The first 3 basically set up the whole the Jedi go and steal children and teach them to be Jedi. There's no Jedi to steal children. There's just a kid out there who is Force sensitive and wants to join the Resistance. I don't necessarily think it's a larger plot point or anything. I just think it's kind of like a nod that Force sensitive people are running around without training.
I think it's just to point out that there always will be the Force, and that the will of the Force is that there's going to be Force users, whether they're dark or light side, whether there's a galactic civil war, whether there's the Resistance and the First Order. There's always going to be Force users, and that there always are going to be born. I just feel that was really the importance of it, is that no matter what, it's going to keep happening.
Yeah, I thought it was more the more the ring was he had Rose's Resistance ring was more of an interesting thing than he Force grabbed a broom. I was just to me it was just there's hope for the rebellion no matter where they are. He just happened to grab a broom.
I honestly have no idea what to think of the kid with the broom. I think it's alluding to a future where Kylo Ren's going to have an apprentice, and Rey's going to have either a Padawan or an entire school with her as well. I think it might be building towards a new Jedi Sith army kind of thing. But we also number one thing is we don't know if there's going to be another 5-hour time jump, or if there's going to be a 10-year time jump going into Episode 9. Because Resistance has to rebuild. They're now back to being the Rebellion. But they have to rebuild and grow their numbers.
Yeah, they only got literally the Falcon full of people left.
Well, I mean, they say that basically what's left of the Resistance will be the spark that starts...
ignites the fire of the new Rebellion.
Yes.
which they say like 4 times in the movie, 3 times probably, because that's the rule is you say something 3 times to pay it off.
I am waiting for the Cinnamonsons cut of every time they say hope. Because she says to him like so many times, "You're the hope. We need your hope. You're the hope." And then Poe goes, "He's given us hope." With them walking out there.
Yeah, they're really driving that hope thing.
You didn't like us saying it in Rogue One. We're gonna say it more. I thought it was seriously that scene where they're just firing everything. That's beautiful.
We have to think of like the state that the galaxy is in though too, because I mean Snoke is gone, so they're like Hux is probably going to be the only person that's actually going to bring any sort of like order to the chaos that is the First Order right now. They've already started taking over star systems who are just bowing down to them. The New Republic is entirely gone. Their whole star system was destroyed because of Starkiller. Their whole fleet was destroyed. There's no other standing army because of like a disarmament agreement they made with the remnants of the Empire. The Resistance is almost all but destroyed. There's very few of them left.
Actually, did you notice that they actually didn't refer to it as the Resistance anymore? They just kept saying the Rebellion over and over.
Yeah.
They pretty much went like, nobody's calling it the Resistance on any boards. So
I think it's largely because the New Republic is gone and the First Order is reigning, so they can't resist something they're rebelling against it.
Well, no, I'm just saying that it seems like they're kind of like Lucasfilm has kind of like taken back, like people just kept referring to it as the Rebellion. Let's just keep referring to it as the Rebellion.
It is.
I mean, because
it is a semantics.
Well, I know, but the whole the Empire. It's the First Order, not the Empire. But they called I think one of them said the Empire is spreading or something like that. But I noticed that Hux continuously kept calling it the Rebellion, and he's also the one who went, "You're a precious princess," and I was like, "She's a general now, dude."
So I don't know about you guys, but my biggest lingering question from this movie, and I'm probably the only person that's interpreted this whole thing this way, is when Chewie is having his little porg barbecue, he has about 5 or 6 porgs staring at him.
Yeah.
And to me, it looked like they were begging for parts. I swear. And I'm like,
I don't know
cannibals?
why you think that.
They have fangs, which means they're meat eaters.
I don't understand why you think that way.
They were crying, dude. That one, when he's getting up to it and he tears and the little quivering, they were crying because he was going to eat their friend.
He was going to eat Ray. I've decided to name that porg Ray.
Okay.
I don't know. To me, just the look on his face is like, hey, we're hungry too. Can we have a bite of Ray?
No.
What is wrong with you?
No.
I don't know. I thought it was open to interpretation. I was it's funny that they're sad. And then it almost looked like they were begging, hoping Chewbacca would put it, throw him down. And
they were begging him to not eat their friend.
Yeah.
Fine. Also, I don't know how familiar you guys are with Futurama, but the porgs reminded me of the owls from Futurama.
Oh yeah,
in the Futurama canon, owls replace rats as the new rodents of the future.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with that. Because they showed inside the Falcon, they'd already moved in and had babies and stuff.
Yeah.
Which made me start going is she on that island for 18 hours? That's because she was like, I've seen your day. You're not busy. I'm like, have you seen his hour or have you seen his day?
Well, we've seen they go through multiple days because Luke says on the dawn I'll train you. So we don't know how long.
That's the point that I was making though, is that everything that was occurring with the Resistance, I think that is already in a future point, near the time that Rey is about to leave Octo. She's already been on Octo for a while when the Resistance is being attacked at their base, and when they're fleeing from their base, she's already been there and has been with Luke for a while now.
I just assumed I just assumed that they were just doing the Empire Strikes Back kind of timeline, which is they were flying away. Luke somehow spent 3 weeks, a month and a half on Dagobah, but they actually were only on Cloud City for an hour kind of thing. That whole because the timeline doesn't quite make sense for Empire Strikes Back. I just assumed they were just doing that again.
Yeah, and it's like the Cars universe. Just don't overthink it.
Yeah, I mean that's the only thing is that they kept definitively saying how much gas they had. Well, and
18 hours, 12 hours, 6
hours, 3 hours, 1 hour kind of thing. That's the only thing kind of bothered me is I wasn't sure where the timeline was supposed to be because they were trying to make it immediate, we're running out of fuel. But then how long was she there? Because he did say dawn. And then
Yeah, he said you get 3 lessons, and we start at dawn.
Yeah.
So, any other lingering questions from you guys?
How am I going to be able to cope for the next 2 years?
It almost was 18 months, but Colin Trevorrow had to become a giant tool and turn in a terrible script apparently. Because we were supposed to get it in May 2019, and now it's December 2019.
They're gonna push back Han Solo, and you know it.
They're not. They can't. Not at this point. It's too
they
late in
can.
the game.
No, they will. They'll push it back.
I'd be surprised.
I wouldn't be surprised because it was right about.
And that's not a question about the damn movie. What does the Han Solo movie have to do with this?
There's unanswered questions about the Han Solo movie, like how did he meet Chewie? By the way, to answer to all of our fans out there wondering about Ferdinand, he lives at the end, and the bulls are free.
And you can't see John Cena.
No, because I looked up in the Wikipedia while we were talking.
So
we're at the movie.
So the only other really legitimate question I actually have about this movie is, obviously Finn is obsessed with Rey.
Oh no.
Obviously Rose is obsessed with Finn.
Oh no.
Rey is kind of oblivious to everything and maybe have some kind of romantic link to Kylo Ren.
Oh no.
Where does this romance go, or do you think the romantic subplot gets dropped completely?
It's a pentagram.
You also have to think of Poe, too.
Yeah, seriously, that look between the two of them at the end where he's like, "Hey, you're Rey." Starts taking off his jacket and removing his shirt, and he's like, "What's up?" Those were so.
You just made him Schmidt from A New Girl, or The New Girl.
He is. No, yeah, because we have Kylo wants to be with Rey. Rey wants to be with her parents. Finn wants to be with Rey. Rose wants to be with Finn, and Poe wants to be with anything with legs. So
you raise a good point, though. What did you guys think about Rey's parents allegedly being no one of real importance?
See, I think that's bullshit. I think that's bullshit.
I feel like it could go both ways. I think it's just to point out the fact that it's not all about like who her parents are. Like that's the point, is that it doesn't matter.
No, I'm not sure necessarily think it's that. I think it's just him just saying whatever he can to try to win her over side. That's the only part where I just think is bullshit. Because how would he know who her parents are? He doesn't seem to have that kind of intelligence gathering. I mean, if Snoke had been like, yeah, your parents were nothing.
Well, he said he had seen it in her mind when they were linked.
But the only thing she had in her mind is that one thing of the guy grabbing her hand and the ship taking off.
He also says like, you've always known. She just wants that someone of importance is her parents.
Yeah, but I mean that could just, in my opinion, that could be just the whole like you hope your parents are somebody good, not just scumbags kind of thing. I just think that's a bullshit line that he was just lying. That's just my opinion on that. Because I think she doesn't know who her parents are, and what he would say in that moment to get her to his side is, you know, your parents were nothing. Together we can be something. Together you came from nothing to rule the galaxy with me. That's something.
Not a bad point.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, if they're nobody's, okay, cool. I just think he was just saying whatever he could to get her to his side.
All right. Anything else to add?
Oh yeah, Phasma sucked.
Oh yeah, we didn't even talk about Phasma. First question: is she dead?
Derek,
I really
what kind
don't
of armor
even-
is she wearing?
Well, I
She's
mean,
wearing shiny chrome armor.
she's wearing the same armor that was plated on like Queen Amidala's like ship from Naboo. It's
Really?
like a chromium type. Yeah, it's a chromium.
That must
That's
be
what it's
heavy.
called.
That's kind of cool.
It's extremely expensive, and she's had to collect bits and scraps to have it like plated on her armor.
That's neat.
So that's why like you could pretty much shoot her with blaster fire, and it's just gonna bounce right off of her. It doesn't matter.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah. Otherwise, I don't know. I think she's just dead. At least that's what I'm hoping.
I'm hoping she's dead.
I mean, she had it.
And
She fell through a fiery like pit of some sorts. That was on the half of the ship that got
was
torn
destroyed, yeah.
apart, and she had a hole gouged into her face mask. So I mean, maybe she asphyxiated out in space. Who knows?
I'm hoping she's dead.
She did go out better than Boba Fett.
Not really.
At least she actually put up a fight where Boba Fett's just like, I'm going to rocket around like a dickhead for a little while, and then Han Solo's going to hit my rocket pack and make it malfunction. I fall into the Sarlacc pit.
Listen, you have a bias against Boba Fett. Let's just agree with one
It's
thing.
not a bias.
No, you have a bias hatred of Boba Fett. Let's agree with
Tell
one
me
thing.
what I just said was wrong.
Well, first off, he lands on the thing and he challenges Luke directly and fights with him. He does not just rocket around doing that. So you have that point wrong. Now, let's just agree.
No.
That her storyline is just as pointless as Boba Fett's.
Okay, yes.
And that she went out as not necessarily as much as a chump, but kind of a chump way.
Yes, I will give you that. She did kind of. Ryan Johnson was clearly just like, yeah, this character means nothing, so I'm just going to kill her off.
By the way, BB-8 driving an ATST is badass.
Oh, speaking of BB-8, when they first arrive on the Dreadnought or the Supremacy, and they have the BB-9E Imperial ball droid.
Oh, the evil BB-8?
Yeah. When he first showed up, I honestly, all I could think of was Wally. When Wally first showed up and Mo, the little like cleaning droid,
Oh, yeah,
I just really wanted him to go, Mo.
Did you notice when BB-8, when he had the little can put on top of him, he started making the mouse droid sounds? That was adorable. I was like, yeah, you're a mouse droid.
Very big mouse droid.
I thought that was adorable.
I think he was a needed comic relief to some extent.
Yeah, I really, that's the kind of thing where I said that R2 seems to be sidelined completely, is that they seem to sideline the kind of cuteness and like multi-tool of R2D2 with BB-8.
Yeah.
But they kept we can keep the protocol droid around doing its own thing. At one point I was almost starting to be like a little too annoyed with the cuteness of BB-8, and then he started driving an ATST, and I was just like, I'm on board. I want you. I want you driving this thing and just shooting as many stormtroopers as possible.
I like that part, but still, also my other favorite part was when he was just shooting the other officers with the coins, that were stuffed in him. And then he did his own little like blowing off of the
that
coin
was awesome.
slot.
That's so awesome.
There's two other things I did want to discuss really quick. One, the plot hole of Luke not showing up or feeling Han's death during The Force Awakens is pretty much acknowledged when Rey mentions like, "Oh, you've cut yourself off from the Force," which I thought was nice
which is how he also didn't know that Chewbacca and R2 were on Ahch-To the whole time.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I wanted to mention was Ryan Johnson played this beautifully, and it took me a couple days to realize it. The theme or the recurring phrasing of "from a certain point of view" is very heavily referenced, but not directly referenced in this movie. You have Luke telling his side of the story of what happened with Ben, and you have Ben's point of view of what happened, where he just saw Luke lording over him with his lightsaber, getting ready to kill him.
Oh, okay.
Whereas Luke is like, I saw darkness, and the minute I felt that darkness in me, I regretted it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And,
And then you have the same thing happening too when Rey sees what she likes to be like Kylo's future, and then vice versa. Kylo sees like supposedly Rey's past and her parents, like seeing that like they were no one, they sold you for money because they were just dirty scrappers.
Yeah, and died in a pauper. It's buried in a pauper show. Yeah. Well, don't forget, he also said that he sees her future and that her future is darkness. He said that towards the end to her at one point. He said that I also see your future, and your future is darkness.
I can't. I mean, the Emperor saw the same thing in Luke. So.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying that she sees one thing, he sees another.
Yeah. So again, it's open to discernment.
Yeah.
So.
But then again, Luke also did say, he's like, "There's all this stuff on the planet. You immediately went for the darkest part of it and dove right in without hesitation."
And I like that part too, where she does the Ahch-To version of the Dagobah cave, where the darkness offers her something, which is she wants to know who her parents are.
And her parents are her.
Yeah.
Which is what Luke saw in Vader himself. So, yeah. I don't know, that part kind of was a little too Empire Strikes Back-y for me a little bit, but I was fine with it. Mostly because the whole way they did the whole mirror thing was really, really fucking cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that.
So, unless there's anything else to add, I think it's a good place to wrap up.
Yep.
So, Derek, Alex, thanks again for coming on the show. Thanks for sharing your thoughts on The Last Jedi. Again, I think if I remember correctly, we all said this is a must see.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
On a big TV.
on a big TV or a big theater screen.
Don't watch it on your smartphone.
So thanks again, everyone, for listening. Thanks again for listening to us rant about Star Wars for about an hour and a half, if not a little bit longer. We'll see if I actually decide to edit this. If I don't edit this, I apologize for all of my coughing, and I apologize for all of the uhs, likes, and ums that I usually edit out, and all of the mouth noises that I usually edit out. So, yeah, there's one there.
And don't forget to listen to the theme music this week in honor of Eminem releasing Revival on Friday. We have the Dr. Dre remix of our theme tune.
And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and YouTube. You can find us Talking Smack, SMAC, Superheroes, Movies, Animation, and Comics. You can find us on Twitter at Talking Smack Pod. You can follow me on Twitter at Josh_Scar. Derek has a protected account, so don't bother finding him. Alex doesn't do tweeters. And you can email us at tsmackpod@gmail.com. Share your thoughts on the Last Jedi, what you think is going to happen. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Are you one of those fanboys that oversubscribe to the fan theories? And you can enjoy the theme music, so roll it.